What is going on, everybody? It is Ohio State week. It is Big Ten week. I have so much to talk about, a lot coming up this week, so I hope everyone's excited for it. We're going to talk today about the players that need to step up if Wisconsin has a chance of beating the Buckeyes in Columbus. All of that and more on today's Locked On Badgers. Let's go.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, for joining us. I am Ryan Herrings, your host of Locked On Badgers. I want to say thank you so much for everyone who tunes in, whether you're finding us on the podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube. It means so much as we continue to build this community. We are here for your team every single day, and we are excited about it. You may have noticed a different background. I am on work travel for my adult job, but that's not going to stop us from putting out content. No. Not on Ohio State week. Not on Big Ten Conference week. I'm like Leo Chanel. I'm not missing any snaps here. So we're going to get right into it again with the big thank you to everyone who's tuning in, listening, watching. Y'all mean so much. And let's talk Ohio State. So a while ago in the summer, I did a show basically why can we never beat Ohio State and why I'm so sick of playing them. Because Ohio State, don't get me wrong, I get excited for every game. I'm already excited for Ohio State. I'm already in my mind have found scenarios where Wisconsin beats them in Columbus, where Wisconsin makes it a game. But I feel like lately playing Ohio State, it has felt like, building a dam across the surging river. And I made this analogy in the summer where it feels like, we're bringing the thatch and the rock and the cement and the mud and we're damming this river and we're putting bubblegum over a crack, but the river just keeps surging. And it feels like no matter how well you play against Ohio State, no matter how much effort you put into damming up this river, the pressure just gets to a point where you can't hold it back. It cracks and suddenly, bang, it's an 80-yard touchdown. It's a 14 points in 3 minutes, right? And it's so difficult for a team that can't match them talent for talent and across the board because they have so much athletic talent across the board that you just have to play so perfect. And nobody can play perfect. No team can play that perfect unless you have that corresponding talent level. They're coached well, they're smart, they execute, and they're incredibly talented. And that's just become such a tough task for Wisconsin to overcome. So, yeah, I'm going to put that show in the comments and notes on Twitter, based, why I'm so sick of playing Ohio State. Why can't we ever beat them? That was a fun show to do over the summer, but we're here. It's game week, and there's a lot to talk about. Let's start with Ohio State itself. What have they done this year? What have we seen? I watched some of their film on Toledo. Anything different about them? Big players, et cetera, et cetera. So they're 3-0. They beat Notre Dame 21-10 to open the season in a game that felt really big in that moment, and then Notre Dame has gone on to look pretty terrible. Notre Dame does not look like a good team. That win looks far less impressive. However, I would caution you with this. I get a little I don't get as dismissive as other people when they say that's not a good win. Look at Notre Dame. The opening game of a year is always different. And, Ohio State is getting Notre Dame at their most juiced up, at their best. That's still a big win. I don't care what Notre Dame has done since then. That's still a big win. And probably some of what Notre Dame has done since then is because of what Ohio State did to them. If you go back to, was it 2016, the Wisconsin LSU game in Lambeau? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's 16, where Wisconsin beat, I think LSU was a top 5 team that year, beat them in Lambeau. And everyone, in kind of retrospect, has gone back and said, well, that LSU team wasn't very good. That LSU team had a bunch of NFL dudes, Leonard Fournette, and a bunch of hype. Part of why that LSU team fell apart is because of what Wisconsin did to them. It's because Wisconsin knocked them off of their swagger. So don't be so quick to discount the fact that Ohio State beat Notre Dame. I get that Notre Dame isn't as good as people thought they were. That's still a really good win to open a season when the other team is full of juice. So they're 3-0, beat Notre Dame. The other two teams, Arkansas State and Toledo, nothing much there. That's basically the equivalent of us beating Illinois State and New Mexico State. They beat Toledo 77-21. CJ Stroud was incredible. He's been incredible all year. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the country, the best quarterback in the Big Ten. Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, has 11 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 73% completion percentage. He's a dude, much like Ohio State always has. They always have a dude at quarterback, and he's another one. That he likes to throw out of the gun a lot. So what are we going to see with CJ Stroud, that passing attack? They like to do a lot of 4x1 where they put a running back in the backfield and do kind of a zone read or at least some eye candy, and then 4 receivers. They'll do 3 receivers with their tight end, who's also very good, feel like I have to sneeze. Excuse me so much. I'm sorry about that. So they do a lot of 5 receiver, 4 receiver. They'll do 3 receivers with their tight end, who is very good. They create some eye candy with the running back. A lot of moving the pocket. So they do some really interesting things. They'll roll the pocket out and roll an offensive lineman out like a guard to just kind of help create protection as they move the pocket. They're going to get CJ Stroud off of the defense's angle. So they're going to move him to make it harder to line up on blitzes. Stroud himself is just so accurate. When he has space and time to complete passes, he is dynamite with his arm. He's going to make some throws this weekend where Jay Shaw is going to have really good coverage. Cedric Dort is going to have really good coverage. Ricardo Hallman's going to have really good coverage. And he's just going to put it in there anyway, and they're going to make plays. And it's going to drive us nuts as Badger fans. He made a throw in that Toledo game where he's rolling out to his right. And again, this is where I talked about CJ Stroud likes to move to create time for his weapons to get open. Okay. He's really good at that. And unlike a lot of quarterbacks that will move to run, he moves to create bigger plays down the field. And it's really impressive to watch, quite frankly. He was there was a play in the Toledo game I was referencing. He rolls out to the right, and there's really not much there. Toledo covered it pretty well. And right about as CJ Stroud's about to go out of bounds, quick whip throw, and the guy's blanketed in the end zone. I think it was Marvin Harrison Jr. I think it was Harrison Jr., and he was just blanketed. There was nowhere to put this ball. And Stroud found like the 3 inches outside of the Toledo cornerback in the back corner of the end zone. There's stuff he does. I just am warning everybody watching this feed and getting ready for this weekend. There's stuff CJ Stroud does that you cannot defend against. And he's going to make throws that make you pull your hair out. So be ready for that. Veteran offensive line. Again, they move the pocket around. He's just really, really good. The running game, Travion Henderson, he left Travion Henderson coming into the year, the talk of really in the Big Ten, who the best running backs are. It was Braylon Allen, Travion Henderson, and Mo Ibrahim, right? And so Travion Henderson is a big-time player, averaging almost 7 yards per carry, fast, physical, really, really talented. He left the Toledo game with injury, and as of now, we don't know what that is. It was undisclosed. Both Ryan Day and Travion Henderson said, I won't be out long. He won't be out long. Reading tea leaves, I wouldn't be surprised if he misses this weekend. And even though it's Ohio State has dudes everywhere, okay? But they also lost a backup running back in the offseason, a 4 or 5-star kid. So they've taken some hits there. If Henderson can't play, that's a big deal. It's just going to put more on Stroud in that passing game, which they can certainly shoulder that load, but it's a big deal. Henderson's backup, Meon Williams, Jr., big kid, 225 pounds, physical player, averaging 6.5 yards per carry. So there's no slouches anywhere on Ohio State, but if Henderson's out, that is a big deal. And then you get to that receiver core. That receiver core is loaded. They recruit receivers like, it's like Wisconsin has recruited offensive line, offensive tackle recently, but more. They have so many dudes. Marvin Harrison Jr. is incredible, 5 touchdowns this year. Obviously, the son of Marvin Harrison. He has great hands, a good catch radius, really good in the red zone. Julian Fleming is awesome. He's a physical receiver, well-built, kind of looks build-wise like Marcus Allen does. Jackson Smith and Jigba has had injuries this year, but he's an incredible player. Emeka Egbuka is a special teams guy, fast, also really good. I mentioned Cade Stove, their tight end, is also a really good weapon in the receiving game. They're just so deep and talented there, and they're going to put you in just difficult matchups, right? Your second, third, fourth cornerback is going to be covering a 5-star receiver on an island, and defenses just can't hold up like that. Wisconsin isn't going to be a hold up like that. So the passing game is really tough to deal with. The receivers are great. The defense wasn't very good last year. It was mid-tier. I think 9th in the Big Ten. They brought in Jim Knowles, the defense coordinator from Oklahoma State, very, very highly regarded. They really haven't been tested. Like, they held Notre Dame to about 250 yards, but again, Notre Dame, we don't know what that is. And Toledo scored 21 on them, but we haven't really seen them be tested yet. So it'll be interesting to see how they hold up against Mertz, how they hold up against the Badgers' power running game. A guy to watch on their defense, Michael Hall Jr. is a defensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, already has 2 sacks, 5 tackles for loss. Like, they have athletes everywhere. They always have athletes everywhere. But I don't think this is the defense Ohio State had in like 2019, right? They don't have that Chase Young, that Bosa on the defensive line right now. They don't necessarily have those first-round cornerbacks that we've seen Ohio State trot out year after year after year. So I think that there's things to be had here for the Badgers offense if they can take advantage of it and if they can execute. Coming up, we're going to talk about who are the 5-6 players that need to step up for the Badgers to beat Ohio State. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. But first, today's show is brought to you by Upside. Listen, we're all feeling the pain, cringing at the pump, basically going to the restaurant, paying $20, $30 more than you used to. I've seen that. It's hit me. It's hit everybody. Unless you're independently wealthy, inflation is hitting all of us, and it hurts. It really hurts. And that's why I started using the app called Upside. Upside is an incredible app for anyone who buys gas, groceries, dines out, basically all the things normal people do on a normal people basis, right? It allows you to earn cash back thanks to Upside. It's easy to use, and it's not too good to be true. You get free cash back for doing the things you're already doing in life. And what are you going to use with your cash back? I'll tell you what I'm using with mine. I have gotten a couple comments about it looks like I occasionally record, and by occasionally always record in my mom's basement. And I appreciate that dude for saying that. I'm working on getting some Badger swag in the back of my man cave, in the back of my recording office, make it look a little nicer. I'm using the Upside app to help get me there. Again, it's simple to use. It's not too good to be true. It's free cash back for everything you do on a daily basis. It's a no-brainer. What are you going to do with your cash back? Like I said, I'm going to get some Badger swag for mine. To get started, download the free Upside app, use my promo code LOCKED, and get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. $5 cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Download the free Upside app and use promo code LOCKED to get $5 or more cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. That's $5 cash back on your first purchase of $10 or more. Promo code LOCKED. All right, guys. Really do appreciate everyone sticking with me. Hopefully, I'm going to be on travel for a couple days, so I may have to fiddle with my recording setup. Let me know in the comments if you're having issues, if you can't hear or anything like that, but I think it should be fine. And again, I appreciate everybody tuning in. Locked On Badgers, your team every single day. We're here for it. It's Big Ten week. It's Ohio State week. Let's get excited. Let's get into it. I want to talk about 5 players that need to step up. Okay, 5 players that if the Wisconsin Badgers are going to go into C-Town, they're going to go in Columbus and at least make it a game. Let's not even talk about beating the Buckeyes. Let's talk about making it a game. What do they have to do? Who are some of the players that have to step up? Let's start with Graham Mertz. This is the obvious one. Mertz has to play the game of his life. He has to look like he's looked the first 3 weeks, but he's going to have more pressure. He's going to have tighter windows. He's going to have a hostile crowd. It's a night game, a blackout. And he has to take all of that noise and just remain the constant for the Wisconsin offense, in control, not forcing anything. This cannot be a Graham Mertz game where he has 2 turnovers and no touchdowns. It can't be a Graham Mertz game where he has 2 turnovers and 2 touchdowns. He has to be the most confident, calm, in control dude on the Badgers offense, on the Badgers team. So if we get that version of Mertz, all right, if we get the Mertz we've seen so far, this could be a game. Like that 17-point line, if Mertz is who we've seen so far, the Badgers are going to cover that. But we don't know. Like, we haven't seen him in a big, big moment like this. So, yeah, he's definitely up there. Mertz has to have a great game for Wisconsin to be in this on Saturday night. Jay Shaw. This is why the Badgers brought in Jay Shaw, the former UCLA cornerback, second team All Pac-12, and especially with Alexander Smith out. By the way, I heard it's so unfortunate. A quick segue on this. It's so unfortunate that Alexander Smith, who has put in so much time into the program, right? The 5th-year senior was going to have a really big role this year and just hasn't been able to get over that hamstring injury. That really stinks for him, right? Sometimes, and I do this at times too, but sometimes we certainly forget about the fact that these are all young men who pour so much into it. And for him not to be able to take advantage of that this year when he had really set himself up to be not just one of the players in the rotation, but cornerback 1, right? Jim Leonard has said that dude was our best cornerback coming into the fall. It just stinks for him. Okay. But circling back to Jay Shaw, without Alexander Smith there and going up against his passing attack, Jay Shaw has to have the game of his life because the Badgers are going to have to help in spots. Jay Shaw needs to win his one-on-ones. Okay. He's the veteran leader there. He's probably the best cornerback. He's the most accomplished. Jay Shaw has to win his one-on-ones. And then we can create some help in other areas, whether that's blitzing to get Stroud off his mark, whether that's helping out in the slot, whether that's dropping maybe another safety into, help out with whoever is on the other side, whether it's Harrison, whether it's Njigba, whether it's a tight end, whoever it is. Jay Shaw has to win his one-on-ones. So that's why he was brought here. Like, that's why you brought him in. to match up against these high-end athletes. Joe Tippman, I want to talk about this. Wisconsin, the couple times where, they played Ohio State, especially recently, they have not held up very well in the pass protection. I mean, really the run game either, but it's really been the pass pro where Jack Cohn has run for his life. Alex Hornibrook has been battered. They just haven't created any time for whoever's been the Badgers quarterback to make reads, to find players. And Tippman is now that veteran guy on the line with a bunch of new positions, a right side in flux. We think Riley Mahlman might be back this game, but even if he is, he's new at right tackle. Nelson is new at left tackle. We've talked about this over and over and over again, but Tippman is the veteran dude. He has to be the leader in the middle of that line. And no more penalties. Like, Tippman has had an up and down start to the season, considering the lofty expectations that were put on him. No more penalties. Like, you can't do that at night in Columbus, and Tippman's been called for a couple of them. He has to be the veteran anchor for that offense line, calling out protections, helping Mertz out, keeping him upright, keeping the offensive line accountable, helping them make adjustments to what Jim Knowles is throwing out there, the Ohio State defensive coordinator, getting push at the point of attack for that inside power game. This is such a big game for the offensive line. And if you look at that offensive line, who's the veteran leader? It's the center. It's Joe Tippman. It's the preseason All Big Ten first team. It's the guy who came back to anchor this unit, so and big game for him personally too. Like, Tippman is on a lot of NFL draft boards. He's on a lot of NFL draft radar. This is a great game to get his film out there against the number 3 team in the country on the road, right? Anchor the middle of that line, no penalties, keep the protection, help the offensive linemen, especially the younger offensive linemen, be accountable and make adjustments. Huge game for Joe Tippman here. Huge spot. Number 4, Keanu Benton. Again, this is kind of the inverse of Tippman, right? It's or not inverse. This is the same of Tippman on the other side of the ball. Benton has to dominate, and we've seen him dominate against Ohio State. By the way, we've seen him get pressure right up the middle. Wisconsin has to get pressure in this game without blitzing a lot. Certainly, they're going to send pressure. Leonard is going to create looks, but they can't put all their dudes on an island consistently. So how do you get pressure? I mean, Benton right up the middle. Benton has been one of the best players in the country from an interior standpoint of getting pressure this year, of getting to the quarterback. Now, we've seen him pick up a couple of penalties doing that, getting there a hair too late, but he needs to have an incredible game at the point of attack, basically help control that Buckeyes running game that gashes teams, because teams really load up against the pass against Ohio State, and then they're able to gash them with that inside power, with that inside zone. So, just a huge game for Benton as well. Just like Tippman, you have to establish yourself at the point of attack. You're the senior, you're the leader for that unit, and you have to get pressure on Stroud. Nothing is more disruptive, right? Nothing is more disruptive than pressure right up the middle, instant pressure up the middle. And that's what Benton has been able to do this year. That's what he's done against Ohio State in the past. And if you start getting that pressure up the middle, you start forcing Stroud to roll to the left and the right, and then you have Herbig, and then you have Peterson. And then you have some of those edge players who are able to contain and get a little more pressure. And then maybe Wisconsin can do some things to disrupt that Ohio State passing attack. But if Stroud can just sit back there and pick them apart, or if that pressure isn't coming from that 4-man rush, that 3-man rush, and then suddenly Jim Leonard has to send a safety, he has to send inside linebackers. Boy, if you don't get home, it is a scary, scary proposition against Ohio State. And it's not because the Badgers don't have good defensive backs. It's that almost nobody can line up one-on-one on islands against Ohio State and hold up. And, we were talking about Alexander Smith previously, and, obviously having him available in this game would have been huge. But this secondary is not an Alexander Smith away from stopping Ohio State's passing attack. Let's be very clear on this, right? Like, Ohio State has so many weapons. They have so many good players out there, and CJ Stroud is a phenomenal quarterback. So the key is you have to get to Stroud. I mean, that's 100% it right there. You have to hit him. You have to get to him. You have to disrupt him. And that means you're either getting home with your 3 or 4-man rush, or you're sending blitzers and just praying that you get to him. But you can't sit back and let him pick you apart. So that's what makes Benton such a big deal here. And my 5th player that I talked about, and certainly you could have 10 players on this list. I'm curious. Let me know in your comments who are the 4, 5, 6 players that you think have to step up, have to be huge this weekend to beat the Buckeyes. My 5th player, I just put outside linebacker, the other guy, whoever is opposite of Herbig, whether that's Getz in the game, whether that's Peterson, whether that's We've seen bowlers a little bit, Caden Johnson. Ohio State's going to roll the pocket away from Herbig. They're going to chip Herbig. Okay. Like, Herbig has been incredible this season. He has been absolutely incredible. We talked about it again and again. He's been unblockable. And I expect he's going to be basically unblockable for most of the year. I expect Ohio State's going to have trouble blocking him as well. So what they're going to do, they're going to roll the pocket away. They're going to chip him. They're going to put a tight end on that side, which is great because now you're making Ohio State adjust to something, right? You're creating a delay for the running back to get out into his pattern because he has to chip Herbig. You're forcing a tight end to not get in the pattern. But when that happens, now you need Getz or Daryl Peterson. You need someone else on the other side to win his one-on-one, just like we talked about Jay Shaw winning his one-on-one. They have to win their one-on-ones outside of Herbig because Ohio State's too well coached, right? Ryan Day's a phenomenal coach. He is not going to let Nick Herbig beat Ohio State. Okay, so it's got to be another rusher. And I talked about Benton. If you can get inside pressure with Benton and get another edge rusher that wins some one-on-ones, I think you could really be in business here. Coming up next on Locked On Badgers, so we're going to talk about the coaching decision. How do you want to attack this game plan? Do you want to do the kind of traditional Paul Chryst, run the ball, shorten the clock, or are we going to put the ball in Graham Mertz's hands? Is that the smarter play here? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. Thank you, everybody, so much for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. Again, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. Recording from a hotel room in D.C., coming to you again. We're not going to miss any time. We're going to get the recordings out there. Let me know in the comments how you feel about this week, how you feel about which players need to step up. And this is a really interesting discussion I want to talk about because I've seen this, and I think there's merit on both sides. I think one of the worst things we do as fans, and frankly as a society lately, is we think it has to be all one or all the other. Like, there's balance in most things in life. There's balance in most discussions. And there's merit on a lot of sides. And, how do you want to attack this Ohio State team? Do you want Paul Chryst and the Badgers offense to go ultra conservative? Try to control the clock, keep CJ Stroud on the sideline, limit his possessions, try to wear them down. Basically that traditional Wisconsin attack. Or do you think they should open it up, pass to set up the run, let Graham Mertz, quite frankly, try to attack Ohio State on the back end, put them on the defensive a little bit, and then hit them with some inside power? So how would you do it? I got to be honest, I can see merit on both sides, but I just don't think the argument works of trying to shorten the clock. I don't think it works of, just batter Ohio State into submission, because I don't think you can do it. I don't think this offensive line is as good as the offensive lines of the dominant Badger years, where you can just pummel somebody and you can just run and move down methodically. I think you have to throw. I think you absolutely have to throw the ball. And let's be honest here on a couple things. Okay, Graham Mertz currently, and I don't know if anybody knows this, if you've looked, Badger fans, Graham Mertz is 5th in the nation in passing efficiency. Okay, 5th in the nation currently. We have maybe one of the deepest receiver groups we've had in a long time. We have 2 tight ends that have been really good catching the ball this year. And quite frankly, the best thing our offensive line has done this year has been pass protect. So listen, everything, if you write all this down, everything points to you need to throw the ball. You need to trust Mertz. And the other thing I would say is, you've been building to this spot with Graham Mertz for how many years? You recruited a blue chip quarterback and have stuck with him through troubles, brought in a new offensive coordinator to get to the point where he can help you win these big games. Like, what is this all for? If you, after all of that, and he's finally playing well, you still don't let him throw. Like, what's the point then? Like, he's here to do this. He's here to help win these big games, not to play sidekick to the running game. Like, he can be more than that, and he's been more than that this year. He's the 5th or highest rated passer in the country right now, according to efficiency. And the other thing I would say, and I've always had a problem with this, let me know in the comments if you think I'm wrong, because I could be wrong on this, but I've always disliked the argument that, you need to shorten the game because, high-powered offenses want to. No, I think you need to. High-powered offense, let's say you shorten the game and you lop off 2 possessions for each team. Well, if Ohio State's still scoring on every possession, I don't think it matters, right? You have to score to keep up with them. That's the name of the game. If they score on 80% of their possessions, and you score on 60%, it doesn't matter if you have 4 possessions, they have 4 possessions, or if you have 8 possessions and they have 8 possessions, right? They're still outscoring you either way. You have to score to keep up with them. And I just don't buy into the idea that you need to shorten the game in order for otherwise the other offense is going to, go off. CJ Stroud is going to go off. They're going to go off anyway. I mean, they really are. It's about efficiency. You have to throw the ball. You have to be more aggressive. And quite frankly, you're playing Ohio State in Columbus at night during a blackout against, their when I say blackout, their fan section is going to be all blacked out. It's going to be a hype environment against maybe the best quarterback in the country. Shoot your shot. What do you have to lose? We've seen the conservative game plan not work. Go out there and throw the ball. And if you get punked by Ohio State, you lose 42-17 with Mertz trying to throw first to set the run. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to get upset. You're supposed to lose this game anyway. You might as well see if it works. You can always go back to conservative running the balls to set up the pass, the rest of the Big Ten Conference. But I would come out, and again, maybe this is just me being the fan, right, where you always think the other thing is a better idea, but I would come out and throw the ball. I would come out and be aggressive. I would come out and let Mertz first down, pass, play action, go deep. Maybe not deep, but first down, play action, see what he can do. Roll out the pocket, give him some options, and then start running the ball off of that action and see if it works. And again, if it doesn't, I don't think you've lost anything, because I don't think you're beating Ohio State by running a conservative game plan and trying to ride Braylon Allen, Ches Malusi for 50 carries anyway. So that's where I'm at. Kind of a rambling response, but I just think that you have to take the gloves off and let Graham Mertz throw, because otherwise, what's the point of recruiting a blue chip quarterback and developing him for 3 years and having 4 receivers you like? Right? Like, what's the point? If you're going to do all that and then in the biggest game still not let him try to win it for you, you might as well not recruit the blue chip quarterback. I don't know. That's where I'm at. Let me know what you think. Big game. We got a bunch more coming up this week. I'm going to be in the hotel room for several of them. We have Ohio State crossover. Definitely going to talk recruiting with John Garcia. Is going to be back on the show after a couple week absence. So that's going to be exciting. Obviously, we'll have some more of the familiar faces on the show. I can't wait. I really can't wait. It's going to be fun. Appreciate everybody tuning in on Wisconsin, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.